It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantha Drax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine. Indeed, it's been another incredibly busy week in the Star Wars galaxy, and we're going to get stuck straight into recapping all the news from this past week. So, coming up on the show, we're going to be talking about the solicitations that came out from Marvel Comics for August, Dave Filoni's promotion to Executive Creative Director, news that the Rangers of the New Republic is currently not in active development. We're going to have a look at Gentle Giant's Wrecker 7th scale mini bust. Funko released an animated short for The Mandalorian. We're going to take a little look at that. And the Book of Boba Fett, Codename potentially Buccaneer. And of course, we'll head over to Jabba's court for the big discussion. And this week we're talking The Bad Batch Episode 4, Cornered. Important things to kick off the show, however. Need you to subscribe, ring that bell, like, follow, share the content so everybody can find out about the score. Give us all your comments, and we're going to feature as many as we can throughout the show. Your opinions as important as ours. And talking of unimportant opinions, joining me, Mr. Mark Newbold.
I've got loads of unimportant opinions, Brian.
Yeah. Need to hear them all today. How's your past week been?
Busy. It's been a busy one. It's been mega busy on the site. Obviously, we're going to talk about a ton of that in the next sort of 45 minutes, however long we get chat. But yeah, it's been a good one. It's been busy, and I'm still here and looking forward to the next week, so can't complain. And
you'll have Making Tracks, of course, coming up soon again.
Yeah. Tuesday at some point. Usually lands mid-afternoon. Depends on how the edit goes. It could sometimes be the evening, but definitely on Tuesday. So yeah, again, me and Mark, Mr. Mulcaster, tuck into all the latest news. So looking forward to that.
So let's chop straight on, and we'll tuck into the first news item of the day. The solicitations that came out from Marvel Comics for August. Continuation of the High Republic and War of the Bounty Hunters. We've got everything's coming back out. There's so many ongoings for Star Wars at the moment. The one that jumps out at me, of course, is the one-shot Forlom and Zuckuss. Anything from the list of comics that are coming out that grabbed your attention?
I'm enjoying everything at the moment. The covers, some of the covers there, that High Republic cover with the Trandoshan and the Hutt and all those, Ava Chris and all the characters, just looks incredible. That artwork is stunning. I think the Forlom and Zuckuss one shot, is it DJ Older has written it? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's done that. Just here we go. Looking at the artwork, the covers are just gorgeous. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the run of titles at the moment. I'm working my way through slowly the High Republic. He's finding the time to read everything as much as we do all the stuff on Fantha. So I'm well on top of the comics. I'm really enjoying the comics at the moment. The High Republic Adventures as well from IDW is great fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to everything. I'm very easily pleased though, Brian. You know this.
Yeah. War of the Bounty Hunters is the thing for me at the moment. I'm obviously a comic collector, so I've got about 51 variants coming at me from all around the world, to the point I actually installed a tracking app on my phone to track all the different parcels coming at me, because it's like completely clueless as to what's coming from where. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of by August comes around, we're going to be really into the meat and bones of the series. I'm hoping to see a lot more than just Boba Fett, which has obviously been on all the covers.
Yeah.
And that, I'm going to go back to that one. That is a scary cover.
That's an awesome cover. That's the real old. That's like a 2000 AD cover. I love that. So I'm really enjoying Bounty Hunters though. It's a great title. Love it.
So Paul Naylor's asking a good question there. Is it going to be compiled into a single volume? So the plan at the moment is all the one-shots. So like there's a Jabba one-shot, Forlom one-shot, and so on. They're all getting combined into a trade paperback. The actual mini-series of War of the Bounty Hunters is going to get combined into a trade paperback. Of course, the series crosses over into after it crosses over into Vader and the Star Wars ongoing as well. They're going to be not combined in the trade paperback. So whether down the line there'll be an omnibus edition, don't know.
Yeah,
but certainly
that makes sense.
you're going to have to be picking up the trade paperbacks for all the different ongoings to get the whole gist of the whole thing. And 34 issues for the whole series, so it's pretty extensive. It's going to be multi-volumes.
And you were saying about all the variants, Bri, I suppose like Marvel tend to do now, you got your second print, your third print, your fourth print. It's really going to go crazy, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely. And I think it's been selling pretty well. I think a lot of the stores have been struggling with their variants because there's just been so many. I know, slightly too far on to the next story there.
Who's that guy?
I don't know him. And yeah, it's going to be tricky for stores to really cash in on this one because there's so much. I think 51 variants for the Alpha, which is kind of the prelude to the series. I think we're already at about 13 or 14 for issue 1. These are just the store variants, so
that's got to be the most variants since Vader, really, isn't it? That's got to be right up there.
I'm thinking it's going back as far as Star Wars 1 and when was that? 2015.
2015, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's it's been pretty insane kind of period of time. Kind of hoping it's going to slow down for issues 2, 3 onwards.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. So a quick flip with the next news item. Obviously, this was a big news item on the site this week. People are really excited to hear this news that Dave Filoni has been promoted into the role of Executive Creative Director. Any idea what that entails?
Wow, bigger office, endless coffee. I don't know, more responsibility probably. I mean, apparently it happened last year, didn't it? And they've only just updated the Lucasfilm.com site, so I think that's where we picked it up, and other sites picked it up, and everyone was talking about it. That photograph was taken about 20 years ago, quite clearly.
Yeah, definitely, it's a young Dave Filoni there.
But yeah, it's good news. I mean, I would imagine, and we kind of touched on this in Making Tracks as well, which is out Tuesday, cheap pop. That Filoni's going to be at some juncture. They're going to try and headhunt him. Another studio is going to see the world building that he does and the synergy that he's got and the way he pulls things together. And the creatives love him, the cast love him, the fans love him. Somebody's going to try and pull him in. Yeah, bigger hat, good point. At some point, someone's going to make a play for him. So I think Lucasfilm putting him in the same bracket as Doug Chiang and John Knoll and the same job title, essentially executive creative director. That's a good move. I mean, they're old school Lucasfilms. So's Dave. That connective tissue to Lucas that the fans appreciate so much. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the offshoot or what plays off the back of this promotion, if you want to call it that.
I'm interested in the idea. If you look at the 3 people that are now with those titles, so Dave Filoni, John Knoll, Doug Chiang. So you're talking essentially head of creative and Dave Filoni, head of ILM special effects and John Knoll, and head of art design in terms of Doug. So really, you're stretching across the whole of the company and focusing it on to a handful of people. So I'm kind of envisioning this a little bit like Story Group, but pulling creative together. So
yeah,
John could be putting in the ideas as to, we can do this now, we can do that, so the people in the creative side then know what's possible, and little elements like that, get these people talking to each other. And when you look at the likes of stagecraft and what's possible with that, you've got to keep pushing the boundaries. It's always what George Lucas did when he owned Lucasfilm. It should be the lifeblood of the company, and to push Star Wars forward is to constantly break barriers.
Yeah, that was always the thing, wasn't it, with George? He'd say to, Rob Coleman or Dennis Muir, I want to do this. And they'd go, okay, boss. And then George would walk out the room and they'd look at each other and go, how the hell are we going to do this? They never knew half the time. They were creating the technology to put the things on screen as the story requirements were sent to them, from George. I guess now with Stagecraft, that gives you extra scope. We're on Stagecraft 2.0 essentially, aren't we? With the latest version, there's one at Pinewood. There's apparently one going down to the old Fox Studios in Australia. There's another one on the West Coast. So that tech is moving. That tech's getting more impressive. It's now in a world where there's I don't know how many dozen Marvel series coming. You imagine that Star Wars and Lucasfilm are in a similar boat when they can now say, well, we can do this as a show, we can do that as a show. Like you say, it gives you that broader perspective of possibilities.
Matt asked a good question there, I thought, in that do they take anyone's jobs, or are these newly created titles? By all accounts, it seems to be something new, something different. It's never been explained. No press release to reveal anything about it, which kind of seems odd if you're restructuring the company. Generally, you're going to do some kind of press release internally that then tends to leak out externally. That didn't seem to happen this time. And I guess if we move on to the next story, it kind of links back to this, in that Variety kind of threw their toys out the pram a little bit when the Filoni story broke, making some great big deal about the fact that the decision had been made last year. News is news. You report news as you find it. This was new to them. Everybody was congratulating them, whether it was fans, cast members even.
Yeah.
And Variety ran the news story themselves, so they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. But off the back of it, I think they felt like they needed to break something, and they broke this news story that Rangers of the New Republic's kind of on hiatus at best. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of devil in the details here. I think it's the way it's worded, because obviously, the assumption, the clear assumption was that Cara Dune, Gina Carano was a part of this show. Obviously, that went south pretty heftily last year, the back end of last year, when they didn't pick a contract up. So that's made alterations there. We've had this in Star Wars before. Kenobi was going to be a film. Now it's a TV series. We're used to Star Wars sort of doing left turns at the last minute. Goodness knows that happened on Solo and Rogue One. So, and that came good. But yeah, it's on hiatus. I think you said it. It's the best way of putting it. I don't think it's cancelled. They don't mention it being cancelled. It's not an active. It's not on the hot plate at the front of the cooker at the moment. It's on the back plate. They're just letting it simmer for a bit because there's other focuses to go on. There's Book of Boba Fett, obviously, Ahsoka, all the other stuff that's coming. So I don't think it's cancelled. I think they're probably taking some time to rethink it. But as I just said, like Marvel, there's a million projects. If John Knoll walks in the room tomorrow and says, "Hey, Kathleen, I've had a great idea for an Old Republic series or whatever," then they can shift gear in a heartbeat and do it, because the tech makes it much more. They can be lighter on their feet, really, and they can be filming stuff and we don't even know it, which is what George always wanted, wasn't it?
Yeah. A lot of people suggesting recasts. It's always a potential. I don't think anyone's particularly tied down, and especially in this day and age, to any one particular actor. I think people are quite comfortable recasting roles, and it's a very open title, so they can certainly switch it on. I think someone else there mentioned Hera as a potential to switch the character focus, and that can sometimes be the reason it's not currently being developed, because they're just waiting for that idea or notion to come into play that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a shame with Cara, because I've done a bit of writing about the character for a publication that will be out at some point in the future, and her backstory, the whole Alderaanian shock trooper backstory, is really fascinating. And so there was loads of little avenues and corners they could have gone down if they wanted to with that character. So given the real world, scenario that happened, unfortunate as it was, I think it would be a shame to let the character lay fallow or just wither altogether. There was a good story background to that character. So, like Callista said, nice to see her on there. It'd be really cool actually if they did do something with Cara Dune's character.
Yeah. Moving swiftly on to the next news item. Gentle Giants mini bust, I guess, of the Bad Batch's liquor. Really quite impressive. I'm not as familiar as the characters you're going to be, because animation's kind of something that passes me by. But as far as I know, certainly from reaction I've seen on social media, this one's going to be a popular one.
Oh, no doubt. As you see there, $99, 1,000 editions, I think limited to 2 per person. I would imagine this is not far from selling out. And it is. These minibus, these 6th and 7th scale minibus are just gorgeous. This really captures the character. And they've got a few coming out. They're coming out thick and fast at the moment, Gentle Giant, pre-orders for sort of back end of the year. But this one really does stand out. There's a Kane and Jarrus one coming as well, which is gorgeous. But this is particularly nice. And if you want to get your pre-orders in, click on the link at the bottom of the page. Send a few shekels our way. No, this is lovely. Gentle Giant are doing some good work at the moment.
Paul's making a comment that Wrecker's like me, a big softie. Any truth in that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you'd very much identify with him, Brian.
I might have to check this series out now. I'm getting suspicious. Talking of animation, Funko released an animated short this past week connected to The Mandalorian. Your thoughts, if I bring it up on screen here, and I'll play away in the background as we chat. For anyone that didn't see it, if you want to see it with sound, you're going to have to head over to the Funko Facebook page. And always fun, the things that Funko do. A little bit of humour to it, a little bit of style as well. Obviously, it's the big head styles of the Funko Pops.
It's a great idea. Doing this, this just screams Detours to me. The whole vibe of it is just got that about it. But no, the animation's gorgeous. It's really cute and fun. Hot Wheels do a similar thing. They do little animations as well. So there's a lot of companies that have got the Star Wars license. They're doing their own little sort of mini adverts like this, and this is just great fun, isn't it? It's really nicely played, and I hope they do some more, because this was just, look at it. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's what Star Wars should be, a little bit of fun. Yeah. And I think sometimes that kind of gets, the idea of that gets lost. I'm still amazed at the detour stuff has never really made it out there. Yeah. I just don't get it. Whilst that doesn't exist on Disney Plus, just baffles me. It really does. You got to be able to poke fun at yourself and have a laugh at yourself, I think, as well. And I think that's something Star Wars has always kind of done, I think.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's content, so it's more content for the stream, but people are going to be interested, so it's going to pull people in, and there's always going to be a percentage that aren't aware of other stuff. So I don't see, and we all know it was made in 2012, 2013, something like that. So we know it's dated because it was a kind of a zeitgeist touching thing. But hey, we're still watching the Muppet Show. That was from the 70s. There was loads of, what they thought were edgy jokes back then. We still laugh at now. So I'd get Detours out there. There's rumours that Droids is coming to Disney Plus as well. So fingers crossed, get some of that vintage content. But yeah, anything like this, great fun.
If you saw Eurovision at the weekend, anyone in Europe may have, Amanda Holden was dressed up like the bird from the Muppets. That was my take on it. Paul Naylor's asking.
Never thought we'd be talking about Amanda Holden on air, bro. I got to be honest.
No, everything gets covered on Good Morning Tatooine. We don't miss a thing. Paul Naylor's asking, is Droids been confirmed for Disney Plus? I think I saw a rumour up on the site this week that it's coming.
Yeah, just a rumour. 18th of June is the rumour, and initially I think it said UK only, but I think as the sort of people got chit chatting about it online, it sort of expanded to quite possibly being everywhere on the 18th of June. But again, Lucasfilm haven't confirmed it. It is just a rumour. So, Matt's saying Droids was confirmed. So good. There you go. So it's coming, 18th of June. Good news.
Mark Howard there is also asking holiday special. See, I have no issue with that being up on Disney Plus.
Me neither. Gus Lopez has bought all these beautiful original sketches of the clothing from Holiday Special. He's just posted that on his Facebook page, so that's worth going and having a look if you're a follower of fine Star Wars content. But get the Holiday Special on there. Why not? I'd put it all on there. I'd re-release Splinter of the Mind's Eye if I could.
I think Matt's saying it was up on StarWars.com, so
good news. Good.
We'll take that as a confirmation Well, Star
Yeah,
Wars.com.
we know it's coming.
StarWars.com doesn't confirm many things. I'm still waiting for Ryan Johnson to be confirmed as the director of Episode 8, for example. Never had a press release. Never got a press release.
No, they did say that George was definitely coming. They just didn't say when. So I think it's the date that needs confirming rather than the fact that it is coming. So, but either way, great news.
Yeah. I think on that note, we should head on over to Jabba's court so we can have a little in-depth discussion on the Bad Batch. So this week was another week for the Bad Batch. Episode 4 came out. It was called Cornered. Your thoughts, first of all, on the episode, Mark?
I would say, first off, if you're a fan of Attack of the Clones, which I unashamedly am, you'll be lit up by this episode. It very much had that kind of vibe about it. You know, there's action sequences in it that are, you know, evocative of Attack of the Clones. You go to Pantora, which is a planet we went to in the Clone Wars before in the past, and it looks amazing. This just looks phenomenal. The visuals are just incredible. There was what I'm finding about the Bad Batch is there's so many layers to the show. It could have easily, I know when it was announced, like when Andor was announced, and people were like, who wants that? And the Bad Batch got announced. It was like, do we really want to see more of this? Because that was the arc of season 7 that people were probably the least enthusiastic about. I enjoyed it because I like the characters, and I think D. Bradley Baker does a brilliant job. He always has. There's way more depth to this show than they might assume. And here you go, some great images here from the episode, and just conceits like, for example, those characters, Clone Force 99. They're soldiers, they're military men, but they don't have to worry about where the next clipper bullets are coming from. They don't have to worry about fueling the ship. They don't have to worry about where the ration's coming from. Everything like that is provided. They get into a ship and a ground crew has prepped it for them to go. Now they're out there on their own. Now all of a sudden, where's the food coming to go in our bellies? Where's the coaxium going to go in the ship? Where do we get our rations from? How do we restock our military stuff? You know, it's all these things that they're learning as much as clearly Omega is learning. You know, she's seeing this whole world for the first time kind of scenario. And she's a far more engaging character than I expected as well, largely down to a brilliant vocal performance by Michelle Ang. It's just, I'm enjoying it. I knew I'd enjoy it because I like the Clone Wars and I like this kind of stuff, but I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would.
The animation, obviously, it's a similar standard to what the Clone Wars was. Huge step up on the last animation series of Resistance, which was obviously very cheaply done in comparison to this. I think there's been a lot of love and depth gone into this. Just looking at some of the images we've got here, you can see the kind of depth and love that's kind of gone into each scene.
Yeah, it's the lighting makes it. It's the lighting is phenomenal. That's what makes this show.
Do you think it's one of these things that's going to run for years, or do you think it's like an event series? You know, it's going to be 1 or 2 series.
They did an interview on Stars.com, and forgive me, I can't remember the producer's name, but he did say that he basically said it's a multi-series show. So my gut tells me, I think in the world of Disney Plus, especially, I don't really think that shows. You won't. I don't think you get 7 seasons of Mando. I don't think you'll get 7 seasons of Bad Batch. I think Lucasfilm and Disney would probably quite like to move from, you know, new event to new event. It's like Marvel doing in issue 1. Once you get to issue 30 of a comic, they'll flip it back to issue 1 and start again, sort of thing, because it's an event. And so if you're launching a new Star Wars show, goodness knows we've got plenty coming. You know, it's an event. So I think the Bad Batch is a show. I personally think maybe as long as Rebels, maybe 4 years. But it feels like you're going to move. You're going to cover a lot of ground with the characters. The whole mystery of Omega, which is building week on week, the galaxies being built as you watch because it's the Imperial era, you know, so you're seeing the changeover from Republic credits to Imperial credits, and, you know, everyone needs a chain code now to travel, and just all these little things just subtly happening in the background. Really clever. So I think the Bad Batch is actually going to lay a lot of that out in a way that we probably wouldn't expect a show like this to do.
Rob asked an interesting question. I'll just throw it back up on the screen, that whether this is dedicated for targeted at dedicated Star Wars fans or more for the general viewer. I kind of got the impression with the level of depth they're trying to go for that it's really much more catered for the hardcore Star Wars fan. Would you agree?
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. That's quite a good question, actually. Yeah, it probably is. I mean, on the face of it, it's the old Simpsons thing, the jokes for the adults and the slapstick comedy for the kids sort of thing. So there's a visual aspect. It's good to watch. It's an action adventure show. You can watch it on different levels, but if you want to watch it for depth, nice one, Paul. If you want to watch it for depth and detail, it's totally there. So I'll toot my horn now. I'll do the reviews for Bad Batch on Starburst on their website, and one of the reviews I said, I think you look at it and you would think that the Batch and Echo, obviously, who's kind of part of the team, and Omega, that is the kitchen sink A story, and everything else is the B story. But it kind of feels, in a way, it's not quite that. It's the other way around. It's the galaxy building. It's the big story. So yeah, there's lots of perspective to really go deep. But I think, yeah, that's a good question. You could say that it is more pitched at, dedicated fans who kind of know what they're looking for, and there's answers they want to, or questions they want answering rather.
So you mentioned Starburst. Explain that to people that may not know. Starburst magazine in the UK, dedicated to sci-fi.
Yes, it's the world's longest running sci-fi and sort of genre magazine. It's been going since '77, so the very first issue, if I'm right, I think had Star Wars on the cover. So it's been there since way back. It was a Marvel publication initially, and it's bounced around different owners over the years. And at the moment, it's online only. Given the way of the world, it'll be back to print fairly soon. But I've been writing for it for about 4 years now. So at the moment, I'm doing the good to hear. I'm doing the Bad Batch reviews on the site at the moment. So it'll be nice to see it on the back on the shelves. Looking forward to that.
And a lot of people were asking or commenting about their love for Omega over the past few weeks. Is that continuing in episode 4?
Massively, because Mark Mulcaster talks about this on this week's Banking Track. So if you get a chance, have a listen. He goes into quite some depth. If you get new characters, you get kid characters that can be a little bit disingenuous in the way they're performed, the way they're animated, the setup of the story. But Omega has been raised on Camino, so all she knows is Tantive 4 style white corridors and peeing rain outside and everybody looking the same. That's her world. So when she, in the first episode, or the second episode I should say, when she lands on the planet and she's picking the dirt up, and she's never felt dirt because where she lives, there's probably droids cleaning it before it ever gets to settle. So she's seeing all this for the first time, but the way she's performed, the animation's fantastic. The little nuances, you can kind of see her figuring things out. She's far more engaging as a character than I imagined, because when you kind of figured out that, okay, it's Omega and it's a girl, and then they explain that she's part of the Batch, you're wondering whether or not this is going to be a bit of a noose around the neck of the show, because they kind of feel like they've got to put a kid character in. She's absolutely the fulcrum character of everything that's happening, because you're seeing this world through her eyes as she's reacting to it in a really fresh way. So she's been fantastic. But also, like I say, with the Batch, the rest of the Batch, Clone Force 99, having to deal with all these real world things like having to get fuel, having to get food, having to raise money. They're learning a new experience as well. They're having to discover things for the first time. So she's not the only innocent in this scenario. They kind of are as well, but they probably don't even think of it in that term.
I'm looking at some of these character shots here that I've got up on the screen just now, and loving the designs here. Any characters that weren't shown in the Clone Wars that they've introduced into this series that you've immediately fallen in love with the design?
Well, you're looking at one right there. They've introduced Fennec Shand, obviously, from The Mandalorian. I noticed Rob Wainfor earlier mentioned, how old is she? I can only assume they're kind of going on the same terms as Ming-Na Wen, who's a couple of years older than me. I think she's 52, 53, looks about 25, but good on her. You know, so the character has obviously been around for a good long while. This is at the start, you would imagine, near the start of her career. I'm equating the character's age to the actress's age. There need be no correlation. She could be 200 years old for all we know. It literally makes no difference. But just headcanon. She makes a really explosive entrance. She's like a cobra in this episode. You know, Omega knows nothing. So when Fennec comes along and offers her kindness and you know, offers her help when she gets a little bit lost, Omega's got no reason to distrust her. That pretty quickly changes as the episode goes on. But yeah, you know, they've set her up as definitely as an adversary of the batch. I don't know how long that'll last. You know, they're quite engaging characters. She might throw a lot in with them at some point. I don't know. But, you know, just as episode by episode goes along, you're kind of realizing that they're considered property by the Kaminoans. They think they're free men. You know, they consider themselves, you know, we've moved on. We didn't have the chip in our heads that worked. So now we've seen a change in the galaxy and this is what we're going to do now. The Kaminoans are like, we kind of need your DNA, guys. You're our property. So there's this whole scenario building of they're wanted men. They're moving, keeping going because, you know, you can see more and more people chase them down. That dude, I want to know what he was listening to on his headset because that sequence was fantastic.
We're starting to see a lot more alien characters being introduced, whether it's live action or animation, which I like to see getting more of a prominent role. I loved on the Mando series, you know, the Quarren and all that were kind of introduced. Need more of that in Star Wars, I think, because sometimes it can be a little bit too human a film or TV series. Yeah, they've got the tech now. Legacy Effects are doing their stuff over in the States and doing a great job of it, you know. So, and in animation, as you say, you know, it's obviously, you assume it's easier in animation, but yeah, nice one, Paul. Yeah, it probably was. But, you know, it adds that flavour and you know, it gives you that old school vibe of, you know, characters that you identify with as a kid from the original trilogy. You know, it's a good move. It's a good move, yeah. And what do you expect coming up in the next few episodes? Where do you see the series heading?
You know, I think when it all came out, I think everyone was kind of expecting the A-Team, and it hasn't been that quite yet. But now I think with this episode, when they've, you know, the characters kind of verbalised that, you know, we need to make money to survive, to keep moving, to pay for these things, that they kind of will have to at some juncture do something like that. I don't see them doing a bank heist to raise money. I think they'll offer their services to people who need it. You know, so I think that's kind of where they'll go. How far down the line they get being so wanted, because I think Fennec Shand is, personally, it's my guess is that Fennec has been hired by the Kaminoans to bring one, if not all, of the Bad Batch in, because they need that DNA for the next generation of clones. So I think they need to keep moving to stay one step ahead of her and potentially others. I think we'll start seeing other characters that we know from the Clone Wars or the Bounty Hunter characters. Boba's only going to get older, so he could come into it at some juncture, you know. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to being surprised because every episode so far has been very enjoyable. This one, kinetic, busy, amazing animation, and great soundtrack as well.
Can you see any of the characters from this series transitioning over to live action?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier as well on Making Tracks. I think the synergy between the two now, because anything to do with the Mandalorian feels like it's got to go past the Favloni desk, you know, so they want to have some sort of quality control. They want to have some sort of angle and view on anything that's happening with a character that affects their universe. They're part of the galaxy. Clearly, Fennec Shand is one of those characters. So you kind of, I kind of assume that both will have had some sort of angle on that. And as we move into an era where certain Star Wars stories will go into animation and some will go into live action and some will go into movies and spin off wherever they spin off, you know, I think the story that is told in a certain format is the right story for that format. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think you will have characters. I think you'll have a live action Bad Batch at some point. I think Omega will grow to some level and you'll see a live action Omega. I can see characters we can see Moff Gideon, a young Moff Gideon turning up in Bad Batch, as Mark mentioned earlier. You can see these characters overlapping and voiced by the characters that play them in live action as well. So I think that synergy is only going to get stronger.
And we sort of touched on earlier, and I'm not sure if we even talked about it earlier. Did we talk about Boba Fett and the codename of Buccaneer? I think we forgot to cover that.
So, we did, yeah. I mean, that was quite a piece. I think Boba Fett fan club, the good folks over there, found it. One of their readers found it, and I think they may have seen stuff, as always, stuff floating around on eBay and places like that. Where these things tend to pop up in trading groups and such. But yeah, there was 3. These were stickers. I mean, generally you see patches and T-shirts and all sorts of stuff will come eventually, as it will with Mando season 3 when that that gets a bit further into filming. I think they're about a month in. So there was 3 patches. There was I think it was a camera department, AD department, creature effects. I think legacy effects rather. 3 different sort of patches that were out there. But the big takeaway, like you say, was the code name Buccaneer. Yeah. Buccaneers. Yeah.
So if you want to see those patches, head on over to BobaFettFanClub.com. They've got them up there. You can check them out on their Instagram as well. Give them a follow because they've always got great content. But yeah, what do you think? There's anything behind the Buccaneer code name? We've seen code names in the past, and they generally don't have anything particular meaning. They tend to be a very loose connection to something going on behind the scenes in the production rather than something you're going to see on screen.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like, I mean, you told me about this, like the Pilgrim title sort of ping-ponging between projects, and I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think there's some sort of swashbuckling kind of vibe going along with it, but I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, because Andor's picked up the Pilgrim title, which was originally on the Kenobi series.
Yeah.
And off the top of my head, it was connected to a location out in the desert somewhere in California where they filmed Obi-Wan's house, I believe.
Right.
I think that's the story. Am I right?
Yes.
Someone may chime in the comments and correct me. But yeah, it was connected to a location where they shot, I think it was Ben's house for way back in New Hope, I think.
Right, and, okay.
That's where the Pilgrim name came from, and then it obviously got kind of shunted on to Andor when Andor went to film before Obi-Wan, and you've seen that in the past with various projects in the past where code names have ended up in the wrong projects, and it's just kind of that thing when they set up these companies in the background to manage these projects. It's a strange one that can end up in the wrong place. You can get ones that have got no meaning, like Space Bear, which was episode 8, and I think loads of people have seen the patches and so on from that. So, not sure if Buccaneer has anything of any significant meaning, but interesting to know all the same that that's what it's working under. And obviously, it's been filming for a long time. So, Book of Boba Fett is going to hit our screens in December. Can't be long before it's heading into post-production, I would assume. Yeah,
I mean, some of the merchandise has started to knock around. I think Disney Store in the States have got the logo T-shirts available. Anybody in the States wants to get me a 2XL, feel free. But yeah, I think, and when you think, you got Book of Boba Fett filming, you got Kenobi filming, you got Andor filming, you got Mando season 3. We're at that point now where we're that multiple shows on, and Bad Batch, of course, multiple shows on the go at one time, like Marvel have had for a good long while now. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Paul Naylor's given an interesting fact there. I don't know where he's pulled that one from, but that's not one I've heard
I know
before.
where he's pulled it from.
Well, I wasn't going to go there. I wasn't going to go there. And I think probably a good point at this time for you give us a little explanation of what we can expect on the next episode of Making Tracks, which you said earlier is coming out Tuesday.
It's coming out Tuesday, yeah. It's again, as we do every week, me and Mark, just a bit of chit chat about what's going on in the world of Star Wars. Obviously, talking about Cornered season 4, The Bad Batch, as we just have, going to quite a bit of depth on that. We're taking a really cool listener's question from Andy Fernside, who occasionally contributes to Panther Tracks as well. So and we really went into the weeds on the Filoni news about his, I guess you'd call it a promotion. And a few of the bits and bobs, so 45 minutes of nonsense and inanities we're so good at doing at Panther Tracks.
We're just falling quite short of 45 minutes of nonsense here, but Mr. Fernside actually are watching. So
there you go.
There you go. A little plug for him as well, and you're going to get an answer to your question on Tuesday's show. So be sure to check out Panther Tracks Radio this week if you're not already subscribed. Search for it in your podcaster of choice, and you'll find it there. And as we approach our own 45 minutes of nonsense here, I think we'll wrap it up for the evening. Thank you to everyone that joined us, throwing out your comments there. It's always good to have you involved in the chat. Keep your eyes on panthertracks.com for all the latest Star Wars news. We've got no idea what's coming at us this week, but it's always going to be something new, fresh, and interesting. And we'll have back for another show next weekend. We may be changing the date and time, so keep an eye on YouTube and Facebook. We will throw up an event and let you know what time the show's going to be. And hopefully we'll have some exciting content if the show doesn't come out the normal time, because we're up to something suspicious. That's all I'll say. And on that bombshell, I think it's a good opportunity to bow out. So, Mark, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on panthertracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Panther Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Panther Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.